Alright guys, so I thought it would be kind of fun to do, since I just did my DVD collection, I was like, you know what? I want to do book collection now. Not comic book, because that would take 4 parts of hour-long videos, and I don't think anyone wants to sit there and 4 separate, because I'd have to break it up, because it'd be so long. But I figured, you know what? Let's do one of the books in my collection, normal, regular books, because I can be literate. I have good book learning up in here. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about all the collection of books I have, and just kind of talk about, like, give kind of my genuine thoughts and maybe recommend some things. And yes, there will be Warhammer books, but if you came to see the Warhammer books, they're going to be at the end. Ha! I'm not, you see, I'm Schmert. I know most of you guys would come here to just like, what's his Warhammer collection look like? And to which I say, you gotta wait till the end, because that's gonna be the best part for last. So yeah, let's start. So first thing I'm gonna talk about is these 2 books I got at a thrift bookstore. That is Terminator Salvation, Trial by Fire, and From the Ashes. These are supposed to be prequels to Terminator Salvation when it was coming out. I wasn't at first gonna look them over and just be like, that's fun, like, whatever. They're Terminator Salvation. I don't hate Terminator Salvation. I think it's one of the better bad sequels from Terminator. I don't think it's great, but comparative to the last 2 Terminators we got, Salvation, I look back on and go, perhaps I judged you too harshly. So, the reason why I wanted to get these, though, was they were written by Timothy Zahn, the creator of Thrawn, and did the original Thrawn trilogy for Star Wars. So I was like, Timothy Zahn made Terminator books? All right. So I have read them. They're okay. They are from Titan Books. I think they're pretty solid. I think I like From the Ashes a little more. It makes the storyline a little more palatable for Terminator Salvation. I don't know if you can still find these novels, but I would recommend if you are a fan of Timothy Zahn, just on the sole reason of Timothy Zahn wrote Terminator books. Anyway, next up, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. I really like this book. I got this before the movie came out. Like, the movie was in production at the time. Actually, no, this was I take that back. I got this before, like, 3 years before the movie was even announced and even brought out. I really like this. It's such a cool idea of having this just Reese's Pieces kind of moment. And Seth Grant-Smith, he's done other stuff like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and what was the other thing? Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. But this was the first one that became a movie. And apparently Graham Smith, basically he was writing to make this a movie. And if you don't know what the story is about Abraham Lincoln's life, secret life as a vampire hunter after his mother is killed by one, and he basically ran for president to fight vampires. It's actually very historically, there's a lot of history in here that is real life history that's just altered for Abraham Lincoln to fight vampires. There's also a cool moment where he actually meets Edgar Allan Poe and teams up with him for a bit. It's ridiculous, but it's so awesome. This actually is really well written, and the movie is such a fucking disappointment. Like, that was the first time I was ever like, that wasn't like the book at all. So yeah. Next up, X-Men Star Trek The Next Generation, Planet X. This is a real book. I got this, like, I don't know if you can still find this, but, like, I got this off of Amazon for, like, a penny. And it is written by Michael Jan Freeman, who has written a few other stuff. I just realized because I looked at his name and it's on another book. But yeah, this was actually the third, I shit you not, Star Trek X-Men crossover. The first was with X-Men and TNG. Not TNG, the original series, TOS, with Kirk and all them. Then they did a sequel that was also with TNG that was a sequel also to First Contact. And that follows this story. It involves This story basically involves like the X-Men being pulled through the universes and to help the crew of the Enterprise with a planet that's involving their own mutants. It's actually pretty cool. Next up, BioShock Rapture. This is the prequel novel to the game that talks about Rapture's construction and Frank Fontaine's corruption of it and the fall of Rapture leading into the first game. It's actually really solid. I'm glad I found it. It's a cool look at the world of BioShock, and I've always been a fan. So yeah, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I want to get it. Next is the novelization of Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again. It does a little more... It's more of a horror novel. My girlfriend got it for me as a Christmas gift, and I thought it was pretty cool. This is a... like I said, these are the original novels, and this was a edition that was like the first time they had translated the original Japanese novels to... Because these were the novelizations of the movie, of the 54 movie and Raids Again. So this was the first time they've been translated to English. And no, these books did not come before the movies. These are like movie novelizations, like how you see for most. It's pretty cool. Next is a fun one. When I was in New Orleans, we stopped at a giant bookstore, and we got so many books and comics. It was insane, my girlfriend and I. And this is one of the things I got, Raptor Red. This is a story about a Utah raptor and her desire to find like a new pack. It's actually written by Robert T. Backer, who is if you don't know who he is, he's a very predominant, one of the most predominant paleontologists of our time. He was the guy who not only was an advisor on all the Jurassic Park movies on dinosaur behavior, but also was the guy who was the leader in several fields such as dinosaurs being warm-blooded, dinosaurs being more related to birds, construction. He was like one of the forefronts of what we call the dinosaur renaissance, essentially. And he wrote this as like a cool fictional story that put a lot of his theories into practice of Utah raptors. It's really fun. I don't know if you can still find it out there. It's a hard find, but I'd suggest getting it. Next up is Playlist of the Damned. This is a book that was sent to me by my friend Chris, Mount Vernon kid. It's basically a horror anthology all centered around like heavy metal and music. It's pretty fun. Next, we have Star Trek: The Next Generation, Q Squared. This is a novel, a Star Trek novel written by Peter David, which I didn't know. Peter David has written a shit ton of Star Trek novels. Like, I'm not joking. I have been into so many. Goddamn many. Whatchamacallit, so many thrift book stores and seen just sections of Star Trek with his name on it. I had no idea Peter David wrote that much Star Trek novels. Q Squared is basically a conflict within the TNG timeline where Q and Trelane from the Squire of Gothos episode from TOS are at war. They kind of did a version of this in Star Trek: The Q Conflict from IDW Comics. So, yeah, it's a okay novel, but it is cool just for the sole purpose of having whatchamacallit, Trelane and Q encounter one another. Also, I just looked at the back. I've read this book, but I've never paid attention to the back. This book I got at a thrift bookstore, and how old it is, it's from a fucking Kmart. This book came from a Kmart. Right? So yeah. Just kind of moving so the sun isn't in my face so much. Next up, we're going to talk about some Max Brooke books. Max Brooke books. Blech. That is World War Z and De-Evolution. World War Z is a solid book. The movie sucks. I'm sorry. It does. It's a great story about zombies. I'm not a zombie guy, but I do recommend this. It's a cool adverbs about... If you've only seen the movie and never read the book is basically a story about after the zombie apocalypse, and it's like a bunch of interviews with several people who lived through the zombie apocalypse and mankind's rebuilt themselves. Next up is this one is apparently going to be made into a movie at some point, but it keeps getting stalled. That's De-Evolution. This book is about a fictional story of a Bigfoot attack on a small village during the eruption of Mount St. Helens. It's a nice Bigfoot horror story, and I hope the movie gets made. It's a pretty short book too. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, De-Evolution. I'm always down for Bigfoot horror. Anyway, so now we come to another fun book, and that is The Ultimate Supervillains. This is a Marvel supervillain anthology involving stories with Doctor Doom, Venom, Magneto, Kang the Conqueror, and even some other lesser ones like the Ringmaster and who else? Yeah, we've got... I'm looking at it right now. Kang the Conqueror, Magneto, Loki, Ringmaster, Doctor Doom, Mephisto, the Painter of 1,000 Perils. That's a real villain, by the way. The Super Skrull, a team-up between Venom and Absorbing Man, Ultron, Nightmare, Despair, Carnage, the Wizard and Sandman, Typhoid Mary, the Trapster, and an unknown villain that you have to put together. I'm not going to spoil that. Yeah, a lot of these stories are pretty good. I especially like the Super Skrull one where he fights the Vision. There's also a fun one involving the Venom and Absorbing Man one is really cool because it's them breaking out of prison and going on a road trip. Kang is a okay one. Magneto's fine. The Ringmaster one is actually pretty... the Ringmaster story is actually pretty introspective. It's pretty fascinating. But yeah, so it's just a horror anthology kind of stories. The Doctor Doom one is also pretty good. It involves a magician who was Latvian and is trying to start an uprising, and Doom just not having it. Yeah. So I don't know if you can find that book. I got it off of Amazon it was like thrift. So yeah. Now let's talk about this book. Duel of the Monsters Volume 2. This book is very special to me because I wrote in it. Me. I wrote in it. I wrote a story for this, and I did also write for Volume 1. In that one, Volume 1, I wrote a story of the Jersey Devil fighting the Mothman in a story set in the 1960s. And that was my first time writing and being officially published as an author. This is the second time, and I did talk about this book years ago. So Duel of the Monsters Volume 2, what story did I write there? That one. It's on the fucking cover. It is Vampire versus Velociraptor. Technically Utah Raptor, but it sounded a lot cooler, okay? So, yeah. That's my story. That's the one I wrote. And I love the artwork that came with it. I want to show you this artwork that was commissioned because there's a lot of good ones, and I'll talk about the other stories in here too in a bit, but, you know, I'm going to toot my own horn. Yeah, right there. Vampire versus Velociraptor. Bloodthirsty. Really good book. I was very pleased with it, and I was surprised to have it on the table. There is a Volume 3 in the works, and I did write a story for that one too, involving two monsters from the public domain. I'm not going to spoil who it is because I don't know when that's coming out, but I did do a short story for that one. The other stories are really good. My friend Matt wrote one in here, the author of Atomic Rex. He wrote one involving Mr. Hyde versus the Phantom of the Opera. Another friend of mine, Cody, he wrote a fun little monster fight between the Hide Behind and the Cactus Cat, I think, if I remember right. The Hide Behind and, Cactus Cat. And basically, there's other good stories in here from Zach Cole. There's a lot of great ones. Like, I especially also like for other ones, there's a good one with Sea Serpent versus Kraken. There's also kind of like a Frankenstein type monster versus a great ape. All really good. There's really good ones in here. So yeah. But yeah, this is kind of and I did have Volume 1, but I gave the copy I had to my girlfriend, and I let her keep it. But yes, so yeah, the fact that I wrote a Vampire versus Velociraptor story and it's published out in the ether says a lot. Anyway. So moving on. Next up, I think I'll talk about all of these in one big chunk. Yeah, so first off, as you guys know, I'm a big Universal Monster fan. Like, it's no secret that I am a massive fan of the Universal Monsters. Let's just get that out of the way right now. And I'm going to be talking about the Dark Horse Universal Monster Collection. I have 5 of the 6 that came out. The one I'm missing is Bride of Frankenstein, Pandora's Bride. That one I've been unable to locate, and these I scrolled through thrift books, which is where I get a lot of the books, the regular books I get, as well as some of the comic books I get too. You can all thank Chris for that, because I never knew about thrift books before, and when Chris started sending me books from thrift books, I said books a lot, that's where I started looking around, and I found a lot of the Dark Horse Universal Monster books. So, like I said, the only one I'm missing of the Dark Horse Universal Monster Collection is Bride of Frankenstein, Pandora's Bride. So let's go through them real quick. Let's go through this collection real quick. Starting off, we have The Wolfman Hunter's Moon. It's a solid story. It does take a while to get through. This is a direct... These all are meant to be sequels to the original Universal Monster movies from the 1930s and 40s, by the way. Just to be clear. This one, The Mummy Dark Resurrection, it's all right. I think it is definitely a weaker of the bunch. It does deal with little kids, and there is another set I'll talk about in a bit. But I think it's pretty good. There's some nice body horror in here. It's about these two younger kids, Josh and Stephanie, who accidentally encounter Imhotep. Yeah. Next up is Dracula Asylum. This is a story about Dracula feeding it on inmates in an asylum. It's pretty solid. This one is my favorite of the group. This was actually the first one I got. I was in a comic shop, and it was buried under all this other stuff, and I just saw it, and I was like, holy shit, I'm taking that home with me. And that is Frankenstein, The Shadow of Frankenstein. This acts as actually a direct sequel to The Bride of Frankenstein. It actually acts like a bridge between Bride of Frankenstein and The Son of Frankenstein. In here, the Frankenstein monster has tracked, not only survived the explosion from Bride of Frankenstein, but has actually traversed all the way to London because Henry and Elizabeth have left and gone to London, and the monster has hunted them down. However, he basically, as he's wandering the streets, because he can't find Henry, because again, he's not named Victor, he's named Henry in the movies. The Frankenstein monster encounters a group of prostitutes who befriend him, and he protects them and all that. But here's where it gets crazy, because Jack the Ripper murders one of the monster's new friends. So it's the monster versus Jack the Ripper. How cool is that? If you can find this one, I recommend this one especially. Yeah. So, and finally, arguably the biggest fucking insane one out of all of them is Creature from the Black Lagoon times Black Lagoon. This acts as a sequel to Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it involves time travel and lizard people. That's all I'm gonna say. It's so fucking crazy. Yeah. It's so goddamn unhinged. I don't even know how to, properly explain it. So, moving right along. Moving right along. I hope all of you know what that is, and I've probably dated myself with that. So, I got another, and this is the complete set of the Universal Monsters collection. Also, I got from thrift books. This was I believe, who was the publisher for this one? Scholastics. This is the Scholastics collection. I think these were more younger audience. You would find these at the Scholastic Book Fair, and these were also ones I collected at, what was it? I've also collected from thrift books. So, yeah, we've got Dracula. We have Dracula, that was book 1. Book 2 is The Wolfman. Book 3 is Frankenstein. Book 4 is The Mummy. Book 5 is The Creature. And Book 6 is Bride of Frankenstein. I never understood why they didn't have the Invisible Man. He's public domain. They have their version of him. So yeah, this basically follows a group of young friends who free the monsters from the movies, and now they have to like bring them back. It's very 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. That's the best way to describe it. So those are more younger audience ones. Those 6 right there, the Scholastics ones, obviously, but the darker ones are, of course, the Dark Horse ones. Anyway, so yeah, let's keep going. Like let's keep going. Next up, we have the original Phantom of the Opera novel. What? I like literature, and yes, it is classic. This is the Barnes and Noble one. Again, I got this at a bookstore, and I was just like, you know what? I want to own the original Phantom of the Opera. I want to own the original novel by Gaston Leroy. So yeah, I guess let's talk about these now. Not the Warhammer books. Let's talk about the other collection of novels I have. And I'm talking about Star Wars. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Star Wars novels I have. Starting off with Star Wars Catalyst. This is written by James Luceno, who is a phenomenal, probably my favorite Star Wars author. And this is actually a book I got as a Christmas present. And what it is a prequel to Star Wars Rogue One. It basically sets up Galen and Krennic's, Galen Erso and Krennic's and director Krennic's friendship and how it deteriorated, and the early plans for the Death Star. It's so cool how Luceno ties in a lot of, all this stuff from Clone Wars and all this other stuff he was working on into one big story. There's also a mention of Plagueis in here, very cheeky one. I like that. So I highly recommend it. I recommend anything from Luceno, if I'm being honest. Another one, Maul Lockdown. This is by Joe Schreiber and a great novel. Even though it is considered Legends, I really do think it's a solid book. Basically what this is about is Darth Maul this is set before Episode 1, obviously, and Darth Maul is basically sent to a prison, to an orbital prison, to locate a dealer that would help the Sith. And basically, this warden and her brother are making these these underground fights for people to bet on for like the Hutts and all that. It's a really great book. It's a nice horror story too, because there involves this unknown creature that like feeds on the inmates and like their psychic energy. Like every time it opens its mouth, like all you hear is like the screams of its victims from the psychic energy it emits. It's really horrifying. And there's more to it because this is part of a trilogy of novels from the author who did like Star Wars horror, and you might know the one I'm talking about. We'll get to that in a bit. This is really cool. You get to see Maul go one-on-one with a Wampa. It's so fucking cool. And there are some great fights in this book. I highly recommend it. Next up, Star Wars Lords of the Sith. Star Wars Lords of the Sith is this is one of the first new canon Star Wars novels they came out with. And basically what it is that Vader and the Emperor are attacked by Cham Syndulla and his from the animated series, and basically Cham and the other rebels, Twi'lek rebels, force their ship to crash land on Ryloth, and now Vader and Palpatine have to work together forcefully to survive on Ryloth and battling all the monsters and rebels. It's really cool, really dark, and I really like this is early era Palpatine and Vader. So Vader's like, yes, my master, but he's also not an idiot either. So there's some great there's some great work in here. I highly recommend it. It flew under the radar, which sucks. Next up, another James Luceno, great one, Darth Plagueis. Probably my favorite work of his. Darth Plagueis was a great, this basically for me, I know it says Legends, but this is canon for me. This is a great novel. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a great story that really gives a lot of love to the prequel trilogy, and I really loved this story. It's a great story about the rise of Palpatine, everything else, and Plagueis is a great villain. If only that was true in Acolyte. Anyway, so yeah. Moving on to another Lucino book, Tarkin. Tarkin is this basically is another in-canon story, basically about Tarkin and his origin and everything else, and also chronicles the first time Tarkin and Vader actually worked together. This is the first time Tarkin and Vader had worked together on a mission involving a rebel cell. It's really cool. I really like the backstory of Tarkin in here. I especially like how all the dialogue is very, you can almost hear Peter Cushing's voice. Again, Lucino really loves to write bad guys, and I wish he did a Count Dooku novel. Because Dooku plays a lot of roles in, no matter what, Dooku is always in a Lucino novel, no matter what. Anyway. Let's move on to the next one. Because I got a few more Star Wars novels. Starting off with this, Death Troopers. Death Troopers is the zombie stormtrooper story. It has Han and Chewbacca in here. This is the original novel. Maul Lockdown asks as a prequel, and then there's a prequel to that called Red Harvest set in the Old Republic era. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it. It's so cool. Next up, we have Star Wars Shadow of the Empire. This is the original novel. Found this at a thrift bookstore, and I had to get it. This is basically set, this is original continuity, this is previous continuity, and it's basically acts as the bridge between Star Wars, Empire, and Return. It has, the first appearance of Prince Shizor. It's really cool. Guess we'll talk about these now, because I think that's it for Star Wars novels, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so here you go, the Darth Bane trilogy. What more can I say about this, right? The Darth Bane trilogy, one of the best Star Wars stories of all time. Yeah, what more can I say, right? Anyway, so I think that's all the Star Wars novels I have. So let's move on, go back to other books. Starting off with Michael Crichton, The Lost World. This was the sequel to Jurassic Park, the novelization of Jurassic Park, and the basis for Lost World Jurassic Park movie. Which is funny, because, barely anything from this book is used in that movie. I think it was just meant for, I think it was just for justification for, what's his name? Steven Spielberg. Can't believe I forgot that name. Fuck. And basically, it's supposed to be meant to be justification for him to write that, to make that movie. There's some great stuff, a great horror scene involving, chameleon carnivores and how they use the camouflage. It's really cool. There's some just great, monster horror in here. Anyway. Next up is a couple books from a author I follow called Russell James. These are from Severed Press. Forest of Fire and Monster in the Clouds. There's another one in here. I think I may have mismanaged it. Called Atoll X. They're cool monster novels. Obviously, this one involves dragons. This one has pterosaurs, and Atoll X is about a mosasaur. These are pretty cool flash novels. They're cheap too. If you go on Severed Press or go on Amazon to go buy these are a lot of fun. So, another Max Brooks novel, Zombie Survival Guide. This kind of acts as a sister piece to World War Z. Yeah. So this one's going to be fun. The Book of Bill. This is a Gravity Falls sequel that follows, this is all the story of Bill Cipher and his events through the story. Basically, it's written like his memoirs and whatnot, and also talks about what happened to him after the events of the show, because it turns out he's alive. This is more for a mature reader, and I heard it's sold really well, so yeah. There's stuff involving Krampus. There's even cameos that kind of show the other monsters are in existence. Like, what is it? Like, There's quick mentions of Belos. There's also mentions of Darcy from Amphibia. It's really cool. I highly recommend this. So if you want to know what happened to Bill, yeah, I recommend this. So, next book is a science book, The Dinosaur Heresies. This is written by Robert T. Backer, who we talked about earlier with Raptor Red. And this one is basically, this is an older book I found again at a thrift bookstore. And what it is a disrotation of Backer's claims during, like, the early claims of what would be the dinosaur renaissance. Talking about dinosaurs being warm-blooded, related more to birds. Even though it was kind of already known because of the skeleton of Optiopteryx, this was to, like, codify it, essentially. It's really cool. It's really cool to see, like, something that was considered, like, a lot of it was considered, like, fringe at most, and now it's, like, common knowledge for paleontologists. It's really fascinating to read. Yeah. Next up, we have Monster, which is a book I just kind of picked up out of nowhere from some bookstore. This is where a lot of them come from. I've never read it, but it looked cool. It was a nice monster horror story. Then we have this novel, another bookstore I found, Conan the Adventurer, Conan the Wanderer. It's a classic Robert E. Howard book, and you guys know I love Conan, so I had to pick that up. Next is a book that I got and was excited for, but then I read it and I was like, this is so bad. King Kong versus Tarzan. This is basically acts as a sequel to, like, an inter-series story involving King Kong from 1933, where basically the story is that after capturing Kong, Carl Denham and the group park it in Africa to get refueled, but Kong breaks out and encounters Tarzan. Now that's a cool story. Too bad this is a lot of boring dialogue, and the actual fight between Kong and Tarzan is null and void. How do you fuck this up? How do you fuck something as cool as King Kong versus Tarzan up? I asked that question wholeheartedly. Like, how do you even... Like, how? Next up, The Secret Wars, The Secret War of the Worlds. This is a cool book that my friend Chris sent me. Basically, it's basically like it follows an invisible detective and his sidekick, who's from the island of Dr. Moreau, trying to stop another Martian invasion. Yes, in case you're wondering, this is basically like a big world of where all of H.G. Wells's characters exist. Like, it's just like all of H.G. Wells's books put together. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun, actually. Next up, another book sent to me by Chris. In fact, I'll show the other one too. Horrors of the Deep, which is a horror anthology involving sea life, and then the Void Beast collection, which is a cool monster story. So, Chris, if you're watching, thank you for those. Next up, let's talk about... oh, there it is. There's Atoll X. Yeah, this is the other story by Russell James. Highly recommend it. Next up, White Shark by Peter Benchley. I don't have Jaws, actually. I've looked all around for in bookstores. Can't seem to find the damn thing. But this story essentially was a... What this story was is you've probably seen it. It was made into a 2-part TV series called Creature. That was actually had Giancarlo Esposito's first big role. It's kind of crazy. But this story follows a genetically engineered shark. It's pretty cool. I recommend it. Yeah. Next up, we have The Sky People. I haven't read this book, but it's involving dinosaurs and aliens. Cool. I just kind of picked that one up on, like, ooh, the cover looks cool. Next up, Predator Eyes the Demon. This is a Predator anthology novel. Picked this up. I've read a few stories. I haven't finished this one, but I think it's pretty cool. Moving right along to Dante's Inferno. I just saw this at where I got Conan. I saw this at the thrift bookstore and just on a rack, and I bought it because I was like, you know what? It's only like 50 cents. I will get this. And the owner of the store was like, oh, that's so good because it's a banned book. And I'm like, really? Banned book in schools. So I don't need to tell you guys about Dante's Inferno. You guys already know. Stephen King's Christine. I got, again, another thrift book store because they look at it, it's beat to hell. I've been like, my new thing is to collect like major Stephen King stories. My favorite being Salem's Lot. I have yet to get any of them, but I wanted to get Christine because I really love the movie, and reading it, it's pretty been solid so far. So let's keep digging. Yeah. So next up is a book I got at a library. There was like a sale for like $1 books, and this is Rest in Peaches. It's like a parody of like old 90s of like, oh, I can't believe it says old 90s, of like slasher movies from the 90s, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream. And it's about this mascot called Peaches the Parrot who goes around, someone's dressed up as the character and is trying to like butcher people at the school. And this girl and the who's unpopular, she teams up with the popular girl, and they both try to team up to fight the monster. I mean, the killer. And they have a lesbian romance too. So lesbians and horror? Is that the sound of impending doom I hear? It's pretty fun. It does not take itself seriously. Oof. So professional on this channel. Next is the Essential Tales and Poems from Edgar Allan Poe. My girlfriend got this for me as a Christmas present. Same with the Godzilla novel, because I had been doing readings on Edgar Allan Poe. And rather than read from the camera, from a phone, she got me this because it would maybe help with reading from the books directly. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. Next up is another book that was sent to me by Chris, and that is Freddy vs. Ash. This is I don't know how this author, A.S. Eggleston, wrote this book, because this is so goddamn unofficial. It's literally, yes, Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street and Ash from Evil Dead fighting. It doesn't talk about Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, at least as far as I know. And it's published fan fiction. That's what it is. I don't know how. Like, I look at this book, I was like, how did you not get sued into oblivion by Warner Brothers for this? Yeah. Yeah, it boggles my mind. Is it a good book? Yeah, I think so. But again, it's under the predication of, how the fuck did you get away with this? Anyway, so I'll go through the next few books real fast. Because they're mostly Steve Alten books. Although this isn't. 75 years of Universal Monsters. This is just like a history of the Universal Monsters. Pretty cool. That was another Christmas present. So I really like Steve Alten books. And again, that was another time where I was like, that didn't happen in the book. That's why I have such a vehement hatred for the Meg novels. So I don't have all of them. But I do have the following. The original Meg. The Trench, Primal Waters, Generations, and Night Stalkers. I know there's like an 8th book Alton's been working on for a while, but I don't know if I want to read it because my friend Matt and him have a bit of a tiff. And I'm putting that lightly, and I'm not going to go into it out of Matt's respect for Matt. And finally, The Lock, which is not a Meg book, but still. Anyway, so I think... Oh, yeah, and Peter Benchley's The Beast. This is the one with the giant octopus. So, yeah, now for the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about the Warhammer books. And, oh lord, there's a lot of them. Starting off with the Wordbearers Omnibus. This is the chronicles the Wordbearer trilogy from Anthony Reynolds. It's pretty cool. There's a great scene in here of like the characters, like they're in a submarine and one of them's playing with the arms, and they're in the chat, and the leader of the squad is like, "It's not a toy." He's like, "Okay." Then we have Chapters Due by Graham McNeil, excuse me. Pretty cool. It's part of the original Ultramarines trilogy. This was one of the first Warhammer books I got. Actually, no. It's part of one of the first Warhammer books I got. And again, thrift stores. Then this is from Thrift Books, Curse of Necrorak from Stephen Seville. This is one of the few Warhammer Old World books I have, because Warhammer fantasy books range from really cheap on Thrift Books to really expensive. This is on the cheaper side. It's a cool vampire story, too. Then we have Courage and Honor, also from the Ultramarines trilogy. This is one of the more recent books I have in my collection, Eidolon the Auric Hammer. This story follows Eidolon during the events of the Horus Heresy, and it was also like part of a big kick for the Emperor's Children, like to really hype them up. Then we have also really cool, like my girlfriend and I made some homemade bookmarks. This is one of them from Psycho. I think we did a really good job on them. There's others, but I don't have time to showcase them all. I just wanted to showcase that. This is Siege of Vrox. This is the hardcover. This is basically the big Battle of Vrox, where the Death Corps of Krieg try to take the planet back. Then we have the first two books of the Dark Imperium trilogy. This is part of the Indominus Crusade, and yes, this is the story where Guilliman does battle with Mortarion. I'm missing Godblight. That's the third book. They've been really solid so far, so I really hope the series ends on a really solid note. That's what I'm really hoping for with all of this, is that it ends on a proper good note, like a proper solid note. Next up, we have the only Warhammer Age of Sigmar book I have, because again, a lot of them are just kind of okay, and other ones, they get real expensive real fast if you don't grab them. And that is Skaven Tide, because your boy really loves the Skaven. Yes, yes! This is basically meant to be a tie-in to the new Warhammer Age of Sigmar storyline going on, involving the Skaven sieging the Age of Sigmar universe. It's pretty good. Haven't finished it, though. Then we have The Fall of Cadia. This is by Robert Rath, and this book is the retelling of the original story of The Fall of Cadia. Also, here's another This is the other Psycho bookmark my girlfriend made for me. It's for Psycho 2. How cool is that, right? She did a great job on him. But yeah, I think this is really cool. It's a beefy book. It's not an omnibus. It is a straight up, like, this is talking about the fall of Cadia. Anyway, so here is the Ultramarines omnibus. This is kind of ties in with the other two books I mentioned earlier. This was one of the first Warhammer books I got. It was at another thrift store. And you can see why it's just a little banged up. It's well loved. It's still good. You can still read the pages. It's still good. It's still good. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty solid. I think it's pretty solid. Need to finish it though. Anyway, moving on to Krieg, which isn't about the Battle of Vrox. It's a different conflict the Kriegsmen were in. I really liked it. Again, it's always cool to see the Death Corps of Krieg. Next up is Leviathan. This is an Ultramarines novel involving a new battle with the Tyranids after the Battle of Macragge, the first Tyrannic War, and it's the Ultramarines facing the Leviathan, Hive Fleet Leviathan again. Or for the first time. I can't remember. Next up is The Lion, Son of the Forest. Another... Oh, this is a cute one. This is a Baccano one she did. Ain't that cute? She's so talented. Yeah, but this is the return of Lionel Johnson. This novel basically chronicles the return of Lionel Johnson. I really liked it. It's nice and retrospective for such an asshole. So, I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway. Oh, here's the other Baccano bookmark. This is Gene Father. This story involves a conflict between Belisarius Cull and Fabius Bile. It's really cool. I think it's pretty. It depends more on dialogue than anything else, and I do think it also ignores a lot of the Fabius Bile trilogy, which I've not read, but I've heard it's pretty solid. It's also impossible to get those goddamn books. You see, when Warhammer books come out, you have a finite time to get them, or God help you, because those prices are insane. So if you're going to be avid about collecting Warhammer books, you got to be on it. Next up is Angron the Red Angel. This basically is the story of Angron before the events of Arks of Omen, before he got fucking decapitated by Lion in their fight. It's really cool. It talks a lot about what happened to the World Eaters post Horus Heresy, like Latara, like the captain of Angron's ship Latara. Really kind of sad about her, but still, it's pretty cool. I like it. Kind of also showcased why I think Angron is my personal favorite Primarch as a character. Anyway, this is the most recent Warhammer book I've bought. I haven't been able to read it. Saints and Martyrs. This is a omnibus containing 3 stories of the Sisters of Battle. I really love this book. I think it also omnibuses, the Warhammer omnibuses, when they first come out, they're like $21, which is pretty cheap for an omnibus. And they're pretty... This is... I've heard really good things about this. This involves like a story involving Saint Celestine. I'm really excited to read it when I have the chance. Another omnibus. This was one of the other first books I got at that same thrift bookstore. And that is the Space Marines omnibus, which is a trilogy of stories, all of them written by like Christian Dunn, Nick Kime, and Lindsay... I can't pronounce that last name. It's pretty cool. It was when I first started getting into Warhammer and just needed to get those books. Next up, Minka-Lesk. This is another omnibus involving Minka, who is a soldier in Cadia. Really solid. I really like her as a character, and I'm glad she got a model. Then we have Caiaphas Cain, Hero of the Imperium, a Caiaphas Cain omnibus series involving the character, the first 3 novels. Go get this if you want to read more Caiaphas Cain. Then we have Lords of Blood. This is the trilogy involving the Blood Angels doing battle with the Tyranids. I really like this one. It was cool to read something with the Blood Angels. Come on. Next up, we have Night Lords, which is the Night Lords trilogy. This made me like the Night Lords, but still hate Conrad. Then we have the Ahriman omnibus involving the first 3 novels. New novels are coming out with Ahriman, so I don't know if I'll get those or wait for another omnibus. It's hard to tell. Then we have Gotrek and Felix, the first omnibus involving the three first books. Trying to find these omnibuses or Gotrek and Felix stories books are really fucking hard to find, so if you can find them for cheap, I think I spent like $20 on this on Thrift Books, and now I've seen the price go up even more. Yeah. Then we have the Malice Darkblade, first volume of volume 1 of the omnibus. The first 3 stories of Malice Darkblade, literally the most edgelord character in Warhammer: The Old World. Then we have the Vampire Wars. This basically chronicles the wars between the first 3 wars with the vampires and the Empire of Man. It's really good. I really if you can find this, because it was like 20 when I first got it on Thrift Books. Same with I got it the same time as Gotrek and Felix, and now I've seen it go for like 60 now. So find it if you can. Then we have Warboss, really fun orc book. Speaking of, we also have, just going to speed run these, we have Brutal Cunnin, which was a really good one involving this new character called Uftek Blackhawk. We have Da Big Daka, the sequel to Brutal Cunnin, and Gazgithal Thraka, Prophet of the Wa. Another solid book right here. And another ghost one my girlfriend got me. Cardinal Copia and Nameless Ghoul back there. Really solid. If you want to read some cool Warhammer books outside of the Empire of Man and Space Marines, go check out the Orc novels. Then we have Renegades, the new series involving the Traitor Marines. It's only been, I think, 2 books so far. We have Harrowmaster involving the Alpha Legion, and the Lords of Excess. This is the newer one involving the Emperor's Children. now we come to my personal favorite of the Warhammer books I have in my collection, The Infinite and the Divine, involving Trazyn and Oricon the Divinitor, having a massive dick measuring contest between the two of them. I really love this book. I was on a cruise with my family, and I just spent half the goddamn time away from everyone, just kind of sitting in the atrium of the cruise ship, reading this book and getting lost in the sauce. Next up, we have Fall of Deimos, another one of the first books I got, and it features Cato Sicarius. This is a war with the Ultramarines and the Necrons. Again, I don't know if you can find this book anywhere. Do if you can. Then we have Warriors Brood and Warriors Coven. These books suck. It involves a team up between the Black Templars and the... No, is it Deathwatch? Yeah, it's Deathwatch and the Eldar. C.S. Godot sucks as a writer for Warhammer. Do not get these. I got these because I was like trying to collect stuff from different like I didn't have I couldn't get any Eldar books, and these were the only Eldar books I had. They sucked. And finally, for the last books I have, the Salamanders trilogy. These were also some of the first books. It was the Ultramarines Omnibus, both of them, Fall of Deimos, and these three books that were the first few books that I got, that were Warhammer 40k books, and Warhammer books in general. So I basically, got these books for like, I think $10 in total. And now I know that these separate books are going to be put into an omnibus. So I think you can get this trilogy that way. But yeah, this is the Salamanders trilogy, called the Tome of Fire trilogy. It's really solid. I really like these, and this was kind of the books that made me go, you know what? I really want to check out. The Salamanders, and that's how they became. It was through these books that I became a major fan of. The Salamanders, and also Space Marines. And why am I? Because I've literally been talking for 2 hours. Between this and the DVD collection, I have quite literally quite literally talked my ass off with all of these. So yeah. So that was basically all of the books in my collection. This was a serious endeavor, and like I said, I think the next one that I'll do for like collections, because these are like big videos, and it's just kind of I'm glad these videos get engagement. Like when I did the Blu-ray one way back, when I did the Blu-ray one just a long while back, I basically what was it? I didn't know it was going to get any views or any anyone give a shit about it, and then that kind of spurred me to you know what, I want to do DVD collection, which was the previous video, and this one I'm kind of like, well, it's not comics, and the comics one we'd be here forever. But I don't really that's the thing. I don't really get to talk about I don't really talk about the book collection I have, which I can say, while not massive, it is pretty sizable. Like it is a sizable book collection, and also it's very me. Don't you think it's a very me kind of collection at the end of the day, right? Oh yeah, it was this was something I was, you know what? Fuck it. Let's see how well this goes. So I don't think I'll do another book one. And again, I know everyone was like, I've seen people ask like, what's your Warhammer book collection look like? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's fuck it. Let's talk about that. Let's actually talk about what was in here. But I knew if people saw the Warhammer books first, they'd be like, oh yeah, they'd just be like, yeah, we're out after the first half. So that's why I made everyone wait till the very end for me to talk about the Warhammer books. So there you go, guys. That's my book collection. Hope you all enjoyed this. And yeah, you guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of this collection? Do you guys like it, hate it? Go check out more. Go check out thriftbooks.com. This is not like a plug or anything. I'm not being paid by them. This is just like a lot of these books I got were from thriftbooks.com, and I would like to. And if you want to look for books like these. The quality, they might be damaged and stuff, but as long as they're still readable, I would say keep going. Like, get them anyway, as long as you can find for a reasonable price. Some of those goes for like $7. Like, some of those are really high priced, but it never hurts to look. And yeah, also just another shameless plug. Always be sure to check out your local bookstore. Not like of chain books like Barnes and Noble. Not to say don't go looking in there, but I'm talking like your mom and pop thrift bookstores as well. Always be sure to go check out those as well. So, yeah, go support small businesses. That's what I'm trying to say. And also go look for fun books. Go get Warhammer books. Go get monster books. Shit like that. Anyway. So, once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.